Hey everybody, I'm Damon Moore. I'm a lawyer and mediator who's been advising business owners, entertainers, entrepreneurs, and other great people since 2005. And unless you plan to have your business be a sole proprietorship, at some point you're going to have to add people to your business team. Whether your business is ultimately going to have a team of 2, 3, 4, or more than 4 people, your ability to inspire people to work for you is going to play a key role in determining whether your business is successful. In this video, we're going to talk about how you build a team. Let's talk first about the components of a launch. So, a lot of people who are interested in entrepreneurship and who study different teams, people who are kind of part of a team, they debate about whether it's the creator or the business mind that's the more important part of the team. When I was younger, people used to have debates in the music business about whether Suge was more important than Dre or Jay-Z was more important than Damon Dash. In sports, people used to talk about whether Jimmy Johnson was more important than Jerry Jones. People have those types of debates all the time. In the tech business, people used to talk about whether Steve Jobs was more important than Steve Wozniak. I have an opinion about all of those. I'm kind of curious about yours. Tell me in the comments whether you think the creator or creative mind in the business is more important than the business owner or the financial guy behind the business. One author, David Rose, makes an argument that the answer to that question, who's more important, the creator or the business guy or gal, is not important, and that what is important is a combination of these 3 things: the concept, execution skills, and the entrepreneur. Let's talk a little bit about the concept. So the concept is the business idea. The concept needs to be a good one, but it doesn't have to be a great one, and it doesn't even have to be a totally original one. For example, Facebook is kind of the Michael Jordan of social networks, but in the same way that Jordan was not the first guy to fly through the air and dunk on boys, Facebook is not the first great social network connecting people. Amazon is not the first company to sell products on the internet. Uber's not the first ride-sharing service. I could go on. The point is that, yes, there is something they call a first mover advantage that does exist, but you don't necessarily have to be first, and you don't necessarily have to have a good concept. In my experience, most entrepreneurs or most aspiring business owners have one good idea, and many business owners or many aspiring business owners have multiple good ideas. Where those people tend to fail is on the execution of the idea or the execution of the concept. So let's talk a little bit about execution. The definition of execution is the carrying out or putting into effect a plan, order, or course of action. A person who has execution skills in business is someone who has the ability to execute on a concept or an idea. One definition of execute is to fully carry out or put completely into effect. And this is where the challenge begins. In order to execute on an idea, you either need to have or hire the skills that are necessary to bring the idea or concept to life. Depending on the concept or idea involved, you may need to have a coder, or in my line of work as a lawyer, maybe you need to have a paralegal. For some other people, perhaps you need to have a sales guy. Perhaps you need to have a web designer or some other person. If you do not find the right person or serve in that role yourself, then your venture is not likely to succeed. The entrepreneur is the person who organizes or operates the business. The entrepreneur is at the core of starting the company. The entrepreneur brings his or her wisdom, vision, leadership, communication skills, and willingness to take risks to create a venture that adds value to society. The entrepreneur can be someone who's gifted in one kind of narrowly defined thing, or it can be a person who's much more broad in their skill set. What's critical is that the entrepreneur understands what the entrepreneur has and what the entrepreneur lacks. A lot of people claim to be entrepreneurs, but quite frankly, most of those people are lying to themselves. A lot of people are playing the role of entrepreneur in their company, but should probably hand that role off to someone else. One of the most important questions that you can ask yourself is, am I an entrepreneur? So, are you an entrepreneur? If you're going to start a business, or if you're going to own a successful business, you have to be honest with yourself about whether you are an entrepreneur. Because if you're not an entrepreneur, then you're going to have to add an entrepreneur to the team if you're going to have any opportunity for success, real success, success that lasts. If you determine that you are an entrepreneur, then the next thing that you need to do is begin adding other people to the team, other people who are able to execute on the things that you need to execute in order for your venture to be a success. So, for example, if you're an excellent cook and you want to start a soul food restaurant, then you may need to add someone to the team who's good at website design, sales, or marketing, or operations. Or if you're not a cook and you want to start a soul food restaurant, then you need to add someone to the team who can cook. You need to add someone to the team who will stay in that kitchen as long as is necessary in order to make the business a success. Now let's talk about setting some expectations among members of your founding team. Starting a business can be one of the most emotionally draining things you can do in your life. I know entrepreneurs who've lost friendships. I know entrepreneurs who have lost romantic relationships. I know entrepreneurs who've lost all their money and have filed for bankruptcy because of the time and the money that they invested in their venture. There's a lot on the line when you decide to launch a business venture. The people who are on your team are going to want to know what to expect. In the notes, I'm going to provide a list of questions that you probably should be able to answer when you're meeting with potential co-founders. Although each of the list of questions that I am going to provide in the notes or the description are important things to know, in this video, I'm going to focus in on a few things that are commonly at the root of business disputes that I've seen as a lawyer. Let's start with the business name. In the practice of law, the answer to whose name is on the door has probably prevented a number of potentially great law firms from starting. It's hard to get 6 people to start a law firm when all 6 people want their names to be on the door, but the industry norm requires that the firm is known by no more than 2 words. It's hard to get 6 people to agree to start a law firm when all 6 people want their name on the business, but the industry norm is that no more than 2 names are used in naming a law firm. Another common question at the heart of business disputes is, who is the CEO? Even if the partnership is an equal one, someone has to have the ultimate decision-making authority. If you try to make decisions by committee, there's going to be an increased likelihood that the business will implode from inaction. There's also an increased chance that some of the more ambitious of the partners will ultimately leave to start a company where they can have more control. Another issue concerns making sure that equity matches contributions. One of the more frequent complaints that I hear in business disputes is that one of the partners is not contributing what he or she is expected to contribute to the business. Here's some examples of what I've seen. A client was expected to contribute only money and stay out of the business making or decision making, but the client has decided that he or she no longer wants to be a silent partner in the venture. Another example is that involved a client who was upset because someone who was supposed to be in the office every day only comes in sporadically because he has another job. Figuring out what each partner is expected to contribute is a key to making a venture work. When people do not believe that there's a sense of of fairness in the way that their time, talent, and resources are divided, they become resentful. A good practice when dealing with co-founders of a team is to be open, honest, and flexible. It's okay for people to have different personal goals, but everyone's got to know what is expected of them. That way, team members will have fewer disputes that can stifle the progress of a venture. At the same time, you need to be flexible so that you can make adjustments as you gain a better understanding of the challenges you face. If 3 people agree to split ownership of a venture equally, let's say 1/3 to the guy who came up with the idea, 1/3 to the person who's the CEO, and 1/3 to the person who's handling the marketing or the tech or some other thing, there's going to be a serious issue if the idea guy, the guy who came up with the idea, is taking 1/3 of the money, but he's not contributing as much as the others as the idea morphs into something that's a little more complex. An LA Times article about the man who was reputed to be the idea guy behind Snapchat really illustrates this point, and I'll put that link to the article in the description. You can take a look at it. Had those owners built in a little bit more flexibility to their ownership structure, they could have made some adjustments for those change in circumstances. Let's talk about some next steps. If you've had any experience with trying to put together a team of co-founders or a business team to launch a business venture, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment. Tell me whether you faced any of the challenges that I've described in this video. Be sure to press the like button and subscribe so that I know that you want to see more videos like this. Tool up.